This one's a letter of resignation. Which one do you want?
I wasn't here yet.
Microphone's on. We ready, Michelle? All right, it's 6 p.m. We'd like to welcome you all to our Riverdale City Council meeting for Tuesday, For Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. Please let the record show that all City Council members are present, with the exception of Councilor Ann Hansen, who is excused, and Councilor Hilton, who is joining us via telephone. We've asked Councilor Stevens to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you please rise, remove your headgear, repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilor Stevens. I'll now offer our invocation. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful as we gather here at this City Council meeting tonight. Grateful for the many blessings that we enjoy, for the freedoms that we are blessed with, for the bounteous plenty that we all enjoy. We're grateful for the city that we live in, for the wonderful city employees that we have, for their dedication, and for the service that they give to our residents. We ask a special blessing upon them, that they might be watched over and protected, that they might be able to fulfill their duties and then return home to their families each night. We ask a blessing upon the members of the City Council, that they will be able to have the forethought required to make decisions in the best interest of all our residents tonight, and that they will be able to be thoughtful and make decisions that will be most beneficial unto them. We are grateful once again for the freedoms that we enjoy and for the many blessings that all of us enjoy, and we offer this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we now have a time for public comment. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas. No action will be taken during the public comment. Hopefully you've all had a chance to sign in out in the foyer. And if you do get up to give public comment, please state your name and the city that you reside in, and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
I had to beat him. Scott Brinkman, Pleasantview. You guys probably thought you got rid of me, but I just really quickly wanted to get up. If I can control my emotions, I'm still like a little bit heartbroken over the change for me. But I wanted to just let you know what a great leader you're getting in Casey. I couldn't have had a better person to work with alongside me. He's been here 19 and a half years that we'd worked together, but the last 7 years that I've been chief, and it has been an honor to have him. He's going to work hard. He's going to be a phenomenal leader. He's stayed up on everything. He's very knowledgeable in the law enforcement world. He's one heck of a great investigator, and he can accomplish everything. And so there's nothing for you guys to worry about. It's being left in very good hands, and I have full faith and confidence in him and the job that he's going to do. He's going to be phenomenal, and I appreciate the time that I was able to spend with him here and the friendship that we've built, and just not is he just a phenomenal employee and leader, but he is just an excellent person in his life, with his family, with his coworkers. He truly cares about everyone. So thanks to each of you also for the time that I had here. It was awesome. I couldn't have had a better city to work for, and I'm very appreciative for the time that I had here, and grateful that this decision's being made to put Casey in. I look forward to watching him grow.
Hello, Mayor and Council. James Ebert, Far West. I had the great privilege to work for this city for 23 years. You don't find officers who work for the same city for that long a period of time unless those officers work for this city. As you can tell from the officers behind us and the officers who have moved on, you have a great culture here. That culture was continued when Chief Holdridge left and you appointed Chief Hansen, who took that culture and built it. Understanding that the family atmosphere is super important, and that was continued also when Chief Brinkman was appointed. And I am very grateful to see that that's continuing with the very best among us when you're looking at Chief Warren. I have a lot of stories about Chief Warren. I won't tell them other than the time his mom called in sick for him when he first started, but we won't go into that. He was at work within 12 minutes after his mom called in and went right to work. But I've worked with Casey for a long time, and he's very dedicated, not only to this profession, but also to his family, which is super important. I hope you understand the great role and responsibility as a city council and as a city you have to these officers. It's a very difficult job, and when I see you make decisions based upon what's best for the officers, I see that you understand that. I hope that you will continue to take care of the men and women in law enforcement that face very difficult, not only physical trials and tribulations, but also emotional trials and tribulations. I left, and I've watched what's happened to law enforcement over the last 6 to 7 years, and truly you have to be dedicated to remain in this profession. So kudos to those men and women who continue to serve. And again, thank you very much for the years that I was able to work for wonderful mayors and wonderful chiefs, and also at city administration like Steve. And again, I worked with many of you in the past, but thank you very much. Chief Warren will do a great job. He's super dedicated and just a good individual to talk to because he cares about people. Thank you.
Boy, this brings back a lot of memories. I too worked for Riverdale for 31 years, and it was an incredible ride. I can't begin to tell you how grateful I was for the job I had here in Riverdale from the beginning until the end. I always felt like the city council and the mayor had my back. It was an incredible ride. I think we were the department that everybody in the county wanted to come to, and I think it's because we had a city council that really cared about us and gave us good equipment, gave us good salaries, and I just want to thank you and tell you you're making an incredibly good decision with Casey Warren. Over the years, I've had nothing but a high regard for him, for his ethics, his demeanor, and the way he treats the public. He will be an incredible leader here, and I'm grateful for the friendship that I have with him. And again, I want to thank you for the incredible job you do as a city council and mayor. And I used to sit there with Steve and we'd kick each other under the table when stuff was going on. I miss that as well. So thank you.
Okay, seeing no other comments, we'll move on to presentations and reports. We'll start with the mayor's report. I just had two things. We do have the Utah League of Cities and Towns conference that starts tomorrow. Hopefully you'll find some time to get down there over the next 3 days. There's usually some good training that goes on. And also this Saturday at 8 a.m. we have our Riverdale City, Yeah, we could do that. Okay.
Kind of riding a high, and then we go into this stuff.
So, just one other quick announcement. We have our day of service this Saturday at 8 a.m. We're going to pause here with our other reports, and I think we'll move on to our consent items. We just have two of them. The first one is consideration to approve the meeting minutes from the August 15th council work session and council meeting. Are there any corrections or changes to those minutes? All right, seeing none, we would need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Counselor Hilton, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. We'll move on to our second consent item, consideration to appoint Casey Warren as the Riverdale City Police Chief. So this is one of the things I feared most as being the mayor, was having to replace a police chief. And I hoped it would never come. And I'd heard, rumors that Chief Brinkman was going to retire at some point, and I thought, well, if I can just last 4 years, maybe I won't have to worry about it. But anyway, he did end up retiring, and the one thing that made that okay is that we had someone that was coming up in the ranks, and so when they opened the job internally, there was only one person that was qualified to apply for the job, and so we did an interview with Casey, and I think Steve and I both had pretty high expectations that Casey would do well, but I have to say he absolutely knocked it out of the park. I mean, it was better than I could have even hoped for. So, and the accolades and comments just keep coming. I mean, you can tell there was just really no question that he was going to be our next chief. So, with that, we would need a motion to approve the consent item number 2, consideration to appoint Casey Warren as the Riverdale City Police Chief.
Move to approve the appointment of Casey Warren as the Riverdale City Police Chief.
We have a motion
Second?
and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor say, Councilor Arnold.
I would just like to say, I think you've been applying for this job for a long time. And that everything that you do is stellar. So I just wanted to say thank you. I agree with what's been said. I've been here like 14 years, so, you're a good dude. And to be honest with you, these guys said they were taking applications for police chief, and I think most of us were like, what? You're doing what?
Yeah.
Like applications, multiple, so it's kind of so anyway, it's a pretty easy vote for me.
It was just because James Ebert told us he was going to apply. So he scared us to death. So we limited it to in-house. We didn't want to take that chance. So
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. All in favor say yes.
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 All right, that passes unanimously. Congratulations, Chief Warren. We're thrilled to have you. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and get him sworn in, right?
yeah, he's the acting chief right now. We need to get it official, Mayor.
Okay.
So if we could, the recorder's prepared and we're ready to swear him in. So if Casey'd come forward.
I haven't done it for a long time either, so I'll do my best. I, Casey Warren, solemnly swear that I will support and defend
The Constitution of the United States of America.
the Constitution of the United States of America
And the state of Utah.
and the state of Utah
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
That I will discharge my duties as Riverdale City Police Chief with fidelity.
and I'll discharge my duties as Riverdale Police Chief with fidelity.
Speak.
Do you care if I say?
We want to have you say some words here.
I'll try to keep it short.
Well, I'm really nervous, so when I'm really nervous, I don't talk as much. If I wasn't nervous, this meeting would go longer.
This will be a first if you don't have anything to say.
I guess first of all, I just want to thank my family, my wife, my mom, my dad, my stepdad, my stepmom, my 92-year-old grandma that raised me, walked all the way down those stairs. My brothers, one's a school teacher, one's a police officer. Big reason I became a cop is my brother. So my family means a lot to me. So I wouldn't be here without them and their support. And, it's been, as a law enforcement officer for 20 years, there's been a lot of highs, been a few lows. But none of us in this room as police officers could do it without our families. And so, a lot of times we get a lot of the credit for doing a lot of brave things to help people and do different things, but our families are the ones that deserve the credit because they put up with a lot for us to do this career. And so, thank you so much. As far as professionally, everyone in this room has helped me along the way. It doesn't matter if it's Steve or Sean or Mike, Mayor, Councilman, all you guys have been a part of my career. And Chief Brinkman, he's really mentored me these last, my whole career. But beyond being a good mentor, he's been a good friend. And I'd say the same about Chief Hansen and even Lieutenant Ebert. I got to tell you more about that story of my mom. But they've all mentored me and helped me along the way. And Riverdale's been the best place. We always brag. It's the best place to work in the state of Utah. And it's because we have the best residents in the state of Utah. And when you have the best residents in the state of Utah, you end up getting the best mayors. Mayor Searle, where's he at? There he is, back here in the back. Another good mentor, friend, over my career. All you council members, not just the ones that are here now, but the ones that have been here throughout my entire career. You're a representation of the community, and we serve the community. And, when you serve the best community in the state of Utah, in turn, you end up getting some good police officers. And without you guys, without your support, we couldn't recruit and retain all these fine young men in here and some women to do the job that we do. You're only as good as the people around you. And I mean that. It doesn't matter from the top to the bottom. And so I'm just grateful to have the support from the council my entire career and the mayor so we can recruit and retain good officers and be surrounded by good people, And even goes to the prosecutors. I got Brandon Miles here and Tish Toombs. We couldn't be where we're at without them. There's a whole other side to policing. It goes to court. They're right there 24/7 taking phone calls on Christmas morning, middle of the night. It doesn't matter when. They answer their phone. They show up. They help us through the case so we can, successfully prosecute these people. And then beyond that, the officers, it reaches far beyond just arresting people. It's service. It's service oriented. It's helping people, whether they're criminals, whether they're victims. It doesn't matter. And that's the culture that we've had here. And I can take credit for being a part of it, a small part of it. But it began with these gentlemen here that spoke earlier with their leadership. And the one thing I'll promise you is that I'm going to train these guys to take my place someday. And that legacy is going to continue of service and honor and integrity and treating people with respect and helping them along the way. Just like I know with you guys. Some of you guys have been here and been through a couple different council members and stuff, but you guys have passed on that legacy to the people who replaced you and come in. And so, again, I told you I'd keep it short, so I'll finish.
You already have a job.
No, but I really am. I tell you this every time I come in this room. I'm very grateful. I'm very humble for the people in this room, everyone in this room, whether it's the political leaders, it's the community, it's my family, it's my friends, it's the prosecutors, the officers. Like I said, they're the backbone of this department. Without them, we can't do anything. So I thank you guys for your support, and I promise you I won't let you down. I promise you, these guys right here, your legacy will continue, and the things that you built will just continue to raise the bar. So thank you again.
Thanks.
You guys are here for me, you can leave. I don't want to, but
It gets boring.
Thank you for being here. Thank you very much. Yeah.
they might say.
And at 10 minutes, that was as brief as I've seen it be. You're going to add on this.
Hey, Noah. Sorry. I'll try to push him out quick.
Noah, we probably need to keep Chief Warren here, don't we? Like,
You coming by and having a
Oh,
wedding?
I told him he needed to be here.
I think
But,
he'll probably come back.
yeah, he'll probably come back. Yeah.
Thanks to everybody.
Just by way of process, did we get a vote on the first consent item? Did we? I didn't remember if we'd done that or not. If we just skipped over that one. Okay.
it passed. Yeah.
Okay.
That was
where
Hey, Steve, are you there?
You didn't vote, or I was like, "Are you there, Councilor?"
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, gotcha. Just didn't want to skip that and then have Michelle mad at me tomorrow. So
No, we got it. Yeah.
Mind, Bart, we're still in a meeting.
All right. I have to start running the gavel here or something.
Get everyone back.
All right, let's get back on track here.
Okay, we have a quorum still.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
We don't need you.
All right. Well, that's good to get that taken care of. We'll now move back up to presentations and reports. We'll move on to number 2, City Council assignment reports. Anything from the City Council regarding their assignments?
Has to be cracked.
Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, staff reports.
Isn't Casey supposed to stay here?
Yeah,
yeah,
He will eventually.
he will.
I'm sure he'll be
I
back.
guess he's technically here.
We're giving him more than one bullet.
He's out
I
there
told him he had to be here. We'll give him 2. So
Out there eating cake? Or
yeah, probably.
Staff
If I
reports.
could just quickly, Mayor, and sometimes, you know, I hear a lot of these things and you guys never do. So a couple of those little feel-good stories. So I wish those guys were still in here. About 2 weeks ago, we had one of our block parties that the police had. I think they had it up at Romer Park. And when they were getting towards the end, they had some extra food and stuff. And I don't even know who the officers were. But they went over, there was a Little League baseball team that was practicing there. And they went over and invited them to come over. I got a call from one of the coaches the next day because they thought that was so cool. Some of those kids had never talked personally to a police officer, and they thought that was the neatest thing in the world. Besides the hamburgers were really good, they were just amazed by that. And so, you know, that's one of those things you guys don't hear about that we do, and I just wanted to kind of give you that one. And then in addition to that, our fire department. So last week I had a little surgical or medical procedure up at Ogden Region, so I cut down through the terrace that way. The toll road's gone up to $2, and I couldn't swallow doing it. It bugged me too much. So anyway, so I cut down through the terrace. Actually, I did it on purpose because I wanted to see, they're putting in their new pickleball courts up there at Romer Park, so I kind of wanted to get a look at that. So I drove down around there, and then as I was coming back up, I thought, well, I'll go up into the little subdivision there because we had that issue with the water line here a couple weeks ago, and just see if by chance everything had been cleaned up and things. When I get up there, I see our ambulance and I see our fire truck. I think, God, what happened? And they weren't together. They were like a block apart up there in that little subdivision. And then I see Garrett Henry, one of our captains, walking out there. So I pull up. I said, what's going on? What happened? He says, oh, we do this all the time. I said, what do you do? And he says, once a year we have to come up here because that's an more elderly subdivision. They go up there and they change all the batteries in all the smoke alarms up there. I had no idea we did this stuff, and I guess they do it every year. He said they just finished up 28 homes up there, and I just thought that was kind of cool. I mean, it's not something, one of their normal processes that they would follow during the day, but I doubt seriously you would find that kind of service in other cities. And so just wanted to recognize them for those kind of things they do and pass that on to the council so you can see what you're getting out of your police and fire departments.
How old do you have to be to have them do that?
I didn't ask. I was just really surprised. I did not know we even did that, and I just thought that was kind of cool. So anyway, kudos to both of those departments.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to our next item, a presentation from UDOT.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I am Nancy Cousins. This is Beth Gerard with me. We are public involvement for the UDOT project on 5600 South. and are here to give you an update. And I brought some more business cards for the project I can leave out there. Just wanted to give you a really brief update of what's happening and a couple of things that are coming up that we wanted to make sure that you are all aware of. How do I just... Okay, next. This is still just the overview, same thing that we presented last time, the overview of what the project is. If there's any questions about that, just stop me and we can go into that. Okay, next. Again, project benefits, and all of this is on the website, so if you ever need to refer back to why we're doing it and some of the benefits of the project, this is online.
Can I just ask a quick
Yes.
question? Excuse me, if I could. I commute up and down 5600 fairly regularly, and I see you're taking out the homes on the south side of 56, but nothing. Is anything coming out on the north side?
There will be some impacts on the north side. The biggest one that will go north is over the railroad. So the bridge at that area is going to shift more to the north, so the road's going to jog a little bit, but the majority of the expansion is happening on the south side of the road. It was more cost effective to do that, and the space that was needed to add in those two lanes could be accounted for with those properties that touched 5600 South.
On the south side?
On the south side. There, you will notice a couple of them on the north side too, but we are just in process of contacting some of those properties, so I can't identify which ones yet, but some of the reasoning behind a few that we're going to need to touch on the north side have to do with a lot of the utilities that are going to run under there, and also some of the turn proximities at intersections. So once that is common knowledge, we'll be able to tell you which properties on the north side will have impact. On the north side, they will have cost to cure for some things like sidewalk sprinklers, because they will get all new sidewalk through the whole corridor. So we will impact those properties, but not necessarily need to purchase.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. I think we've only got 2 houses left to demo on the south side. I think everything else is pretty much demo.
Golden West Credit Union's not going to be demo?
No, so
They
we
lose
were
their
able
parking
to
lot.
adjust that design so the building can stay intact, and then the right-of-way team is working with adjacent properties for alternate parking so that they can still function in the way that they need to.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions along that? Okay. Our schedule is still moving along. The beginning part, really, you couldn't see a ton because we're just still in the process of gearing up. But we've got some things that are coming now, fall of 2023, that are going to be in place for quite some time. And that is the meat of what we wanted to go over with you tonight. Okay, so next. So this will be implemented within the next few weeks. We don't have an exact date yet, but it'll be towards the end of September. And as that exact date is coming into the window, we'll be able to message that out. This information will also go in an email update to our general stakeholder database this week, also preparing them for what is to come. The impact really has to do with Freeway Park Drive. So if you are from Freeway Park Drive, if you're trying to get to the base, you cannot make a left turn from Freeway Park to the base. And if you are on 5600 South, you will not be able to make a left turn from 56 to Freeway Park. If you are northbound on I-15 and get off that exit to Freeway Park, that'll function just like normal. And if you are coming from Riverdale Road, accessing Freeway Park, that will still function just the way it is. So all of those businesses, we do have some apartment buildings, some businesses back behind Freeway Park Drive. We will be canvassing those individually this week. Most of them are already aware that this is coming, but the map detail is what we want to get in everyone's hands this week. So this is going to be in effect for almost a year. Part of the reason for that is we are building the collector ramp. And if you drive through there, you can see the giant mound of dirt that they are working on. That will become what is called a collector distributor. And what will happen really the first part of October is the loop right there for northbound will go away, and the intersection's going to function more like a normal interchange where you go under the freeway, make a left turn to get on for either whatever direction you're trying to go. So that loop will disappear. So we need that space in order to continue to build the collector ramp. So it is a big impact. We have been in contact with the base. In the morning when I'm driving through here and I see Freeway Park stacked so far back with people trying to make that left turn. Options for people who are used to using Freeway Park to access the base have a couple of options. And so we tried to depict these in the different arrows. They can jump on the freeway, the loop up at the top, and then just get off at 56 and go to the base that way. Or they can go to 1900 and then come eastbound on 56 and enter the base that way.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Michelle? Thank you.
And sorry to interrupt. Our minds are racing right
Good.
now.
Lots of questions, I'm sure.
We probably need to put this out on the Riverdale City page, and then someone can drag it over to the citizens page.
Yeah, when they brought this to us last week, they said they'd have that to us, but I felt that you guys needed to see it right away. So
Because
Yeah, several of us work on base, so we use the Freeway Park Drive, and it's when you start, and it's such a mess anyway with the construction on base. Anyway, it's just like now you said you didn't have a hard date for this.
It'll be before the end of September. We're hoping
it's
the last
soon.
week of September.
Oh,
This
that
will be
quick.
very soon. So with the adjustment of what the base is doing for their main entrance,
Right.
we've tried to piggyback on what they're doing to lessen the impact as much as possible, but it is going to be impactful, and it's a long-term temporary situation that we'll have
Okay,
here.
so people coming up 56, going east on 5600 to go on base, they just go straight through. not
It'll go
an
straight
issue.
through.
People on getting off northbound freeway, getting off, taking a right-hand turn.
Yep,
Okay,
still just like normal.
but people going south on Freeway Park Drive, making a left-hand turn.
They will not be able to.
So, what's the?
So if they
one
get-
of the two.
Riverdale Road, go down to 5600 and go through the gate, or get on the freeway and go to the west gate.
These two orange.
The orange arrows are the alternate routes specific to the base.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
the red is what's going to stop.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, the blow up at that intersection is what's going to stop. And then that blue arrow, that collector distributor that they are building. So you'll still be able to get to Freeway Park, but you'll have to take that blue arrow to the collector ramp, which will take you to Riverdale, and then you will come back in
Oh.
from Riverdale back into Freeway Park. If you were trying to make that left-hand turn. That's what that blue arrow is. It'll take you to that distributor ramp up to Riverdale, and then you'll go to the light and come back
Which
in.
are the green arrows,
Yep.
right?
Yep, that's the green.
Do you know Dave Perry? He lives in Riverdale,
Yeah.
4100. He does all the graphic for the base. So when you get those little things about maps and stuff, that's his doing. I'll just forward that to him. Now, he can't put anything out without the general's approval, but this is the kind of stuff that is like, has the base been briefed on this?
Yes, the base is very much aware of this. And
if you didn't telework, you could go in and see what they're doing.
Oh, no,
but they're going to be doing
2
the
days
same
a
thing.
week.
So this week you're going to see this blasted everywhere. So we have prepared social media. So Riverdale City will get all of this information, the map and the social media. Roy City will have the same thing. The base will have the same thing. And also Maida, Northrop Grumman, everyone that we can get the information to will start to get it this week. And we wanted to be in front of it. So we'll do 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week. So you're going to see this same information blasted over the next 3 weeks before it's implemented. And then additionally, the project team will have a lot of signage for drivers on the road showing which way to go. So if somebody does come in and get stuck on Freeway Park and like, I can't turn left, they actually will be able to turn back onto that distributor ramp and go back to Riverdale Road and go a different way. Either the on-ramp, the circle on-ramp, or back to 1900 and come back in. So the length of this is to try to make it easier for people so we're not shifting the detour or what this looks like too many times. That's why this is the way it is for as long as it is, because this detour, this setup will allow us to maximize the work that we can get done without having to do another shift and another change, because it's hard for people to get used to.
And I appreciate you being here so early, and because honestly, this change is going to affect the residents of Riverdale almost as much as anybody. Like Roy will be able to do their normal. It's the Riverdale residents that it's really going to affect kind of the very most. So.
And the personal door to door, so the Harley Davidson, all of the other car dealership, the brand new Axiom that's there, we've already met with them. There's apartments. There's a lot of businesses that utilize Freeway Park. So we will be to them in person, making sure we get with the managers, the owners, and to keep them in the loop.
And it's good. We can help distribute it. I don't live anywhere near Freeway Park, but I have lots of people that live in my neighborhood that I know they take Freeway Park, and they're going to be shocked to find out.
It's a big change.
Yeah, so it's good. It's good to get ahead of it.
And then we'll come to your next city council meeting too, because the next thing that is coming, which is going to be early October, and we'll do this again with a map. But we didn't want to. It is kind of confusing, all of the changes that we're doing. So we're breaking them up into bits. Freeway Park left turn, let's get that implemented, get everyone used to that. Then the next thing is northbound I-15. That will close permanently, and it will never go back to that loop again. They will be on temporary roads, but that collector road that I just talked about, that collector road will now be the on-ramp to northbound and or Riverdale Road. So instead of doing the loop to go north, you're just going to make a left-hand turn onto the collector ramp to go north. So that's the next big thing that's coming. We don't have the map approved yet for that. And we wanted to stagger. Let's get everybody's heads wrapped around the left turn closures, and then we'll spring the northbound change.
So that'll be northbound collector ramp on Riverdale Road down to 84?
Nope.
Up
No.
on 5600, that little loop coming back north.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So right across the street from where these left-hand turns are.
Yeah.
If you go back to that map, I'll show you.
I heard you say something, but I was thinking of something else, and I knew I'd missed something.
This is going to go away permanently.
Right.
Right here. So if you wanted to go northbound, now you're going to take this collector ramp, and there will be a split, so you can get on the freeway or go to.
Oh, you'll be able to get onto the freeway. Okay.
Okay. Then that's not a big.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the thing, I mean, everybody's got to get used to change, because you
The
said
routine,
2026, right?
Yeah.
So from now to 2026, be ready for change. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of the message.
Yeah.
With the loop, though, once that northbound loop is gone, the turn movement, even though it will shift from the collector to an actual on-ramp, all of that, the turn movement will stay the same forever. It'll go from the loop to make a left-hand turn to get northbound. Any other questions?
I think it's, no.
Well, you know how everyone turns off of that, the freeway thing onto Ritter goes down? It's going to alleviate all of those turns. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, freeway parking is going to be a non-issue for,
Right.
until you open it up and then it goes under there. It's under the new spaghetti bowl or whatever that's going in there. I don't know what you call it, but.
That's
Freeway
later in the
Park
season.
Drive
The flyover.
down the road
Down the road.
will have its own, another loop will go straight into the base. So it'll be great, but there's so many moving pieces, it's hard to show that. So we are just phasing. So those are the two big ones that are in front of you right now. And like I said, left turn in place for almost a year. And then once we get the northbound shifted, it will stay in that configuration forevermore. We just won't have them on the permanent road quite yet, but the direction will remain the same.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay, we'll come back again next month and report, and the next piece will be in the horizon.
It's been really refreshing too, as good as they've been at communicating with us. I know Sean's had meetings, I've had meetings, Mike's had meetings. Anytime they bring up Freeway Park or Riverdale Road, we have heart attacks and we want all the details, and I think they get tired of our questions. We even hit them up on a bridge this week that they didn't even know was coming, so we beat them up, but they've been really, really good to work with us, and I appreciate your communications and helping us out.
Do you feel the same?
Is this the same group that can authorize excesses, egress and rest on?
I have
It's
no
not, but we
authority.
vocal our opinions to them, whether they listen or not, so.
I'm just communication. I can't
She's the voice.
authorize anything.
That's why she's smiling. The other guy doesn't
You can
smile.
communicate back to those folks then.
I can put you in touch with the decision makers. How's that? Okay, I'll leave these.
Thank you.
I leave them. Thank you.
Or their voicemails, at least.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, we appreciate yours as well. All right. Very good. We'll move on to our action items. Number 1, consideration of ordinance 969, approving changes to Riverdale Municipal Code Title 8, Chapter 6, transfer of water rights. Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Mayor. So as we discussed earlier, we're trying to clean these up and make sure that we're being as accurate as we can on our water extractions, making sure that we have enough water to run the city, but not taking too much water from the developers. Did a lot of research on this. We've talked to Hanson Allen Luce exclusively. I feel like they're one of the best in the states at doing this. They felt comfortable with the 0.3 number as long as we had the caveat in there saying that if they use more water than that for 2 years, that we could cover ourselves back up and ask them for more water at that point. We also added the option in there for them to do a study through our consultant and look at the water use for their individual development if they wanted a closer number, and which would require them to pay for it. That also takes the residents of Riverdale off the hook for spending money on new developments. It's paid for by the developer instead of the city. I think our number's good, and if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them.
Any questions, Councilor Arnold?
I'd move to approve ordinance 969 as stated within the packet.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Counselor Hilton?
Yes.
Counselor Morrow?
Yes.
Counselor Stevens?
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. We'll move on to item number 2, consideration of ordinance 970, approving proposed Riverdale City Comprehensive General Plan update. Mr. Eggett and Mr. Hupp.
Thank you. As noted in the work session, back in July of last year, we started this general plan process with SOMAS. The very beginning step, I didn't get into it too much, but the first step, they did a bunch of interviews with all the department heads and the mayor and Steve, getting some feedback about the city on multiple questions. They then reached out to community stakeholders, as noted in the executive summary, which would be America First, Hill Air Force Base, Northrop Grumman. I don't know if I'm missing somebody else, but
15 different groups.
yeah, quite a bit. And then there were 3 open houses, I believe, right, throughout the process, and then the online opportunity for public input. And I'll let Chris talk about that. The public input from Riverdale, I'm going to take the words out of his mouth, but he said it's one of the best public input responses he's seen in a lot of projects he's worked on like ours. So percentage-wise. So we have one of the highest, I guess, percentage representations, right? Would be the best way to say that. Yeah, so I thought that was really impressive. as I noted, just real quick for any public who may be watching, we did hold a public hearing on that, and we were required to do so with the Planning Commission on July 25th. There were no public comments provided prior or during, and then following that, the Planning Commission made a recommendation for City Council approval of that plan. There's one element that was a water element that's since been resolved as noted in the work session in more detail. And Mr. Hupp has a presentation, so I won't belabor the point, and I'll turn it over to, I guess, council to turn over to Mr. Hupp to move forward. Is that appropriate? Yeah.
Very good. Okay, Mr. Up.
I'll try and keep it tight, seeing as I've cleared the room out. So, as you know, we've been working on this for a little while. I have a few slides just to go over process first. I won't touch on this too much. We just went through it. This is just timing on when we did each of these phases. Again, public visioning process was our big push for a while. Then we jumped into the actual organization and design of the elements. Again, a public feedback process after we had those elements to get feedback and hear from residents, both physically in one of those open houses and virtually. And then obviously we're here today with the preferred scenario plan for potential approval. As far as the open houses and public engagement, as Mike had mentioned, we had over a quarter of the residents from Riverdale City respond. Again, being about 10,000 residents, total responses were over 2,500. It's pretty impressive as far as percentage wise. We haven't seen that kind of percentage before, but it's been pretty phenomenal since, and we've continued to receive responses. Most of them have been just in line with what's been said previously. Those are still open, so we can consistently get those comments and see what people are saying throughout the city. Just as a side note, as previously mentioned, we had 3 events, over 4,000 website visits, 500 plus comments on the surveys, plus the 2,250 individual comments on the interactive map. And other pieces with that, and then the 15 in-depth interviews conducted, including the ones mentioned previously. Some of the specific ideas that came out of this plan, or the new ideas that come from this plan, is the downtown district development. As we had the open houses, we talked with residents about what they saw the existing downtown being in Riverdale. Many of the residents were like, it's Riverdale Road, that's our downtown. So we asked a follow-up question, what would you like it to be? And a few people said Riverdale Road, but most people said, we don't want that as our downtown. And so one of the new ideas that comes from that is creating a downtown district development along the Riverwalk, or the river, creating a Riverwalk district for that. A secondary idea from this is the 2 mixed-use categories being a residential and a non-residential category. This, you'll see it in the general plan land use map. Let's see, here on this slide, where you see the black dashed lines over the top. That's a non-residential mixed use. Where you see the white dash, that's a residential mixed use. And basically what that means is whatever the underlying district is what really supports that zone. Then you throw the overlay, which allows some flexibility to occur within that land use. For example, the piece on the far west side, north of Riverdale Road, there's a lot of that black dashed, giving a little bit more flexibility if it's office or commercial or whatever. Non-residential use can occur there, so it's a better mix of land uses. That gives you greater flexibility to make decisions in real time. Let's say it's 10 years down the road to say, yep, that makes sense given this overlay. So we'll jump back to these ideas. A third one is the Riverdale boundary adjustment, and we'll touch on that with a specific slide, but there's some odd spots within the city that should be adjusted to better help maintenance and other issues that could occur with the way the boundary was adjusted. And again, I have a slide to go over that. There's the idea of a potential
page number.
It's a great question. That page, I don't remember.
You know what? We'll get back to it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I don't remember the exact page in the document off the top of my head, but it's pretty specific, and I will touch on it with this slide. Rolled curb as a potential median thing, that was another idea. There's been some issues with high back curb, which is the non-mountable curb for fire and police. So there's a potential idea of a rolled curb, which keeps residents and other users off of that median, or reduces some of the crashes and other issues there, but still allows emergency vehicles to get over that. That is not an implementation piece, more of just a potential option that could be considered. Another piece is the open space types. So increased diversity in offerings and trail access locations. Our open space plan talks about the different types of land uses and how they're utilized throughout the city. Then we locate the specific open space pieces throughout the city and say this is where they are. Typically, for land use or open space pieces to be incredibly useful, and by incredibly useful, their use increases, you want them to be within a quarter mile of someone's home. As they get outside of that, their usage by those residents drops drastically. The numbers are about a 75 to 25% shift outside of that quarter mile. So it's pretty drastic. And we talk about that in that section. The next piece is the hillside and floodway design protection. This was one of the big pieces as we were proposing on the project that the city was looking for. Obviously, there's a big portion on the east side and a little portion on the west side along Hill Air Force Base, which both should fall within a open space protection zone that shouldn't be allowed to be developed in. So the slope areas in between residents and Hill Air Force Base is not technically buildable. It shouldn't be built on. I work with private and public projects all the time, and just looking at what's there, it shouldn't be allowed. That's just professional opinion. Then on the east side, obviously, you know some of the issues that have occurred there, and so we actually have a section that discusses what can be done to help prevent some of those issues long term. And then we go over quite a bit in the funding sources for potential opportunities to pay for some of these types of studies and other work to be done, because we know you can't just throw money out all the time. And so we've actually touched on a few of those to give you other opportunities for funding, whether it's federal, state, or local agencies that could help with some of these things. That said, to dig a little bit into the downtown district, this would essentially be that downtown district, the area in the red bubble. We include everything up to the rail, obviously both sides of the river, up to Riverdale, and then down to 84. Essentially that area. Some is already developed, some is in process of being developed, and then there's quite a bit of vacant parcels, including 2 parcels that are owned by the city. Most of this ground is owned by 3 property owners. There's about 5 total property owners inside of this whole area, but the majority is owned by 3. Specifically on the right side of the river, that's a development that you guys have been looking at and working through for a while. Your piece, or your 2 pieces, one is just west of the river, north of the existing mobile home park, and then the other one just south of where we are right now. So those are the 2 big pieces that the city owns, and then there's a few other property owners throughout that space. That said, some of the specific takeaways that could come from this as far as implementation is to do a study area plan for the downtown district. Specifically looking at the land uses, including the park. I know there's been some recent hotter topics about park and what should go in it. That could go into the study, including renderings, precedent images of what could go there, site plans for the area as far as what the river section would look like, uses, look, open space amenities, entryway finding, banners, monumentation. All of those pieces could be rolled into this area plan to help you better visualize the future of what that can become, including where we are today. And then general development standards. So I've got two pieces there. So it could be an overlay code. Currently in your overlay, there is a district, and it's on this section here. Sorry, I gotta. Here. So in this section here, there is an existing. So you're gonna have to remind me, what was the overlay that we could potentially repurpose for this? I know it's in one of my slides, but I'm not seeing it right now. The one that's not currently actually listed in the city, but is a floating zone.
Is that the SOB?
Landmark, that's it, yeah. So landmark overlay zone could be repurposed for this downtown district, or a new overlay zone could be established for that purpose. Doing that versus a community development standards document. Community development standards typically cannot be affixed to a property unless the development agreement is in place. That's state legislature. To answer the questions of why you don't just refer to the state on everything, the state changes things, and sometimes you have greater ability to go fine-grained on those principles instead of just a broad brushstroke, which is usually what the state does. To sort of touch on that, that's one reason why you can do it. You'll jump into community development standards, but then those again have to be affixed to a development agreement unless it's a historic district, and typically you have to have historic buildings within that to become a historic district. And then again, we touch on funding sources for how this type of a plan or study can be carried out. The next piece, and I'll touch briefly on this, the highlights and changes to the land use plan. As you'll see, colors change a little bit, but essentially the land use has stayed almost identical. We've added some overlay zones and changed some of these specific zones, or rather land uses, to help give you greater flexibility and ability to make decisions in real time. One of the big issues we saw during 2020, as probably a lot of the people in this room can understand, land uses and things changed. And so that's why we go from zoning to a land use purpose, to allow you that flexibility to say, 5 years down the road, this makes sense given the context. And so you can make those decisions based on the land uses and then approve zoning based on the general plan without having to update it. That's one of the big things. Commercial land use, or commercial land in the Northeast, now adding that attached residential designation, both residential and non-residential focused mixed use overlays to again give some of that flexibility. One big piece that you'll see on these, and we'll touch on this, is you'll see a black and white dashed line at the northwest and the southeast portion of the city. This is a state mandate as part of the updates in this last legislative session. You're now required to have an ordinance if you have an airport runway that's over 3,000 linear feet within 5,000 feet of your city. You actually have to inform the residents or whoever has the property that this exists and what they can and can't do with their property. So we've talked about the specific implementation measures that can or should be taken once any resident or property owner or developer comes in to try and change something in the city. There will be a form letter that gets sent out with some of this information to just make it fairly streamlined. That said, that is the airport influence area overlay. This is another piece to that. So the airport influence zone is a separate state legislature piece that came out. You had most of this in play. There's some minor adjustments that needed to be made in terms of code that needs to be added to the city's zoning code. That is touched on here. So again, that 5,000 foot runway. So you'll see that 5,000 foot runway. Obviously, Riverdale City falls within a portion of that. You must establish it. It applies to any kind of controls, underlying zone designations, and so on. any developers or anyone trying to develop within that area have to stay under a certain height and go through a process with the airports to make sure that they're in compliance with that as well. The next piece, this is that boundary adjustment that I had mentioned previously. There's 3 specific locations that we've notated. There's other areas that could be adjusted in above and beyond what we show here, but these are the 3 areas that we think will help the city maintain an easier maintenance throughout the city. So the first one you'll see on the far west, west of I-15, you have a portion of Riverdale City that you can't get to. It's in between the tracks, or sorry, the rail and I-15. You have 0 access. Give it to the county or give it to Ogden, so you don't have to maintain it or be in charge of anything that happens there. You can't get to it. Might as well de-annex it from the city and let the county take care of that piece. That's the first. The second is on the north side. There is the city boundary cuts right around where there's some vacant parcels, and then there's the storage facilities. North of that, the river rolls around it, and there's no access really to Ogden City, but yet it's in Ogden City currently. It would make more sense for that piece to be contiguous with Riverdale City, so potentially annex that into the city and have that go all the way to physical boundaries that are tough to cross or tough to access outside of the city. The third piece, it may be a little difficult on this to visualize, but the way that the current city boundary works is it jogs straight down and then goes straight to the right. So there's a piece of trail that follows along in the city, along the river, and then it leaves the city and then comes back into the city. There's no access to that middle piece except through the city. So either to annex that entire piece into the city and you maintain that full trail from edge to edge, or de-annex that far southeast piece so that everything beyond where it leaves the city's current boundary is now outside of the city. Again, just for ease of access, maintenance, and other purposes. Those are the 3 major pieces with the boundary changes. The next piece is code changes or code amendments that would need to be made. Again, creating the overlay zone or adjusting for the Riverwalk area from the landmark development zone as previously mentioned. The second is, and this is a requirement for the state, you have to implement the hillside and slope protection zone as, sorry, that's not a requirement, but that is something, the third piece is the requirement pieces. The second piece is just for the safety of the city and for that whole eastern property and everything along Hill Air Force Base. I know there's been some discussion about potential development in between Hill Air Force Base and other residents. Again, that could have similar things happen in that western area as has happened in the eastern area if allowed to be developed on. The third piece, this is where we get into low impact development. So low impact development is something that the state has been working on and pushing down to the cities for a while. Pieces of that would be, in addition to the low impact development, is the water-wise landscapes and all of the water conservation principles that were previously mentioned. These pieces, the landscape ordinance and all those are already in the code, but there's a few other low impact development that I know currently is being worked on and being implemented and has been implemented, but just to be aware that that's an ongoing thing that the state's continuing to update. And there's a few code pieces with that, and then the overlay zones for the Air Force Base and the Ogden City Airport. Some of the specific highlights: moderate income housing. I know you've worked through this a lot. I know Mike has worked through this a lot. We didn't make any changes or adjustments to this piece. It's taking that, putting it into the format of the document and making sure that it's fleshed out because it has to be in the general plan, again, due to state requirements. And then the last slide here. Last slide here is the Senate bills and House bills that we, the main ones where we had to be compliant with are listed on screen. There's actually several others that we read through in order to make sure that we're matching state requirements and code, but these are the specific ones that we had to hit compliance with. And the city's general plan is in compliance with these, at least until next year. Who knows what will happen then? Any questions?
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Hupp? Or for Mr. Eggett? Thank you very much. I know there was, that's over a year's worth of work, and we appreciate you compiling all that. It's actually really enjoyable to look through and see what you guys have come up with. And the comments from the residents are actually very insightful and informative. And I like reading both. They have strengths and positives. They also have deficiencies listed, and there's just several sections that are actually really interesting to read through and see what the future might hold. So anyway, Councilor Arnold.
So I read through it, and I'd like to read through it more. I mean, to study it before we do anything, because it's a monster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would propose that we table it to take any action on it so we can actually read it.
Digest it.
Look at it. If everyone would agree.
I agree with that. I would like some more time.
I mean, to get it in this packet and read through it, I mean, we read through it, but to really grasp a hold of it would take, because, I mean,
It's
when
dense.
you're talking, I mean, it's coming at me like Charlie Brown's teacher, it's
Right.
just, wah, 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 'cause I don't.
Would you like
speak
Mr. Hupp to come back if that was the action of the council at that point, or do you think you could
I
handle
mean,
it?
if there were any questions, I mean, I'd hate for him to come back.
That's
and-
why I was wondering what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I don't see now.
I guess you could let the mayor know
We
if you
could
felt like.
let them know. If
let
you have
the mayor
questions,
know.
let's get those out in the open before the meeting, and then we can invite you back.
Well, and I would-
Go ahead.
Let's see.
oh,
Councilor
I
Merrill
was just gonna
first.
say, and I would also like to have Annie here. I feel like she's
Is your mic on?
maybe not. I would also like to have Annie here. I feel like she's incredibly knowledgeable about this stuff too, and I'd be interested to see
Well, then
to
she
hear her.
shouldn't go to Iceland or something, whatever.
One piece with this, we did try and keep it as small of a document as possible, but given all of the state regulations, it continued to get a little bit bigger. We're, again, trying to make it so that it's actually usable for the council and planning commission as opposed to
Being
just something.
comprehensive is important, I mean, but I also think taking it seriously and reading it and understanding it before we take any action is.
And to that point, Councilor Arnold, I mean, they are still talking in the CHOTS, it's basically the land use committee for the state legislature. They're still talking about ways to make general plans legally enforceable on projects. And so, I mean, you're legitimately right to want to know what it means, because if it becomes legitimate, legally enforceable, then it could be used against us in court with land use decisions. So it is important to know what it says.
Councilor Stevens, you had a comment?
No, I have some scenarios that I would bring up based on what we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years. And I'll take them to you, Mr. Aggett, to say, okay, in this scenario, how would this as opposed to the other general plan? And I think those are kind of, and I'll have a series of questions and I'll feed them to you, whether we do it next time or we just, we have an open discussion on it. But, I base it on the scenarios which we've seen in the past because that's the limit of my experience. And because, this goes, because the default has always been, well, this matches the general plan. So I think if it's in the general plan, then it's like, we've got to go to it now. And I have a really hard time of the trend seeing commercial property transition to high density residential. And I think that's a trend, so I'm going to be talking to you about that scenario. And,
So I can answer that. One thing that I failed to mention as part of this process, residents of Riverdale City didn't really express any major issues of things that needed to change. And when that happens, that means you all are doing a good job. You've created a place that people love to be and don't want to change. Obviously, because of the boundaries that you have, you're fairly built out, with the areas that are vacant typically being inside of an accident potential zone. So you can't build there anyways. So there's not a lot of development potential. There is redevelopment potential, but as you look at the land use plan, we don't really change land uses besides adding overlays to give greater flexibility. If redevelopment comes back into the commercial zones, it's zoned commercial. The land use is commercial.
Well, we recently, over the last few years, we've had commercial that were empty lots, and I'm talking behind, what was it, 300 Bed Bath & Beyond behind that, west of that, be rezoned for high density. That, I just thought, boy, this is really not my cup of tea, but anyway. And the developers are more than happy to do that. Heck, if you're going to change a zone, but that's where I want to say, in this plan, let's talk about that scenario, and we'll be having conversations.
I will say, behind the curtain, we had a lot of those conversations about where, if any, overlap there were for residential with commercial. And if you look at that map, there aren't very many. So take that into account as you think about your scenarios. Yeah. We had that conversation frequently and because knowing some of the concerns and knowing that the residents aren't really excited about, how do I say this, a heavy impact of multifamily everywhere like we see in some other communities. We had a lot of that conversation about how to retain the character so there isn't tilting the other direction where it's multifamily on every corner like maybe you see in some of the other communities. So just know we have had those conversations.
Anyway, I want to, how does this new general plan handle those scenarios? Anyway, we'll talk later.
And one more thing I do want to note too, the date of the last comprehensive general plan update, if I remember right, is like 1997. So this one was more than ready to come. I know we've done amendment after amendment to this chapter and this chapter and here and there, but you look at some stuff that maybe back in the day was more relevant, but it doesn't really fit to what people look for information today. So that was another reason we felt like a comprehensive general plan that was cleaner and more efficient and more, I guess, reactive to issues that we face today versus what was the issues in 1997 is the evolution of this document as well. So
that's also why we distinguish between non-residential and residential mixed-use zones. So if it's a non-residential mixed-use zone, there's no residential. That's what the mixed-use zone says. It's not residential. It's mixes of commercial or office or something that is compliant like that. And then the residential mixed-use, you can have residential, but it has to be supportive of whatever your base land use is.
And it allows variation in zoning and density management by the planning commission and city council, which is kind of what I feel like maybe you're wanting to get out a little bit. Right. It creates a little more active legislative flexibility within decision making, where the one right now is so rigid. It's like, this is moderate density residential and this is low density residential. This allows more flexibility as the zoning standards permit and as the council planning commission feels appropriate for certain areas as the city evolves and the society feels like certain areas maybe need to evolve in different directions. So that's kind of, I think, the reason he's proposed that.
Yeah, I get it.
And I appreciate the council's concern because as the state takes away more of the city council's authority to make decisions, we're going to rely on our code and on the general plan and on the planning commission. And I can appreciate them wanting to make sure that those three items are as airtight as possible to be able to help, control what happens. Because they, as you well know, the state has kind of taken away their authority to make those decisions.
And Mr. Hupp and I have had numerous dialogue about the legislature, and he agrees that the legislature has become, I'm going to put words in his mouth, but heavy-handed in the way that they're doing business. And he's tried to help us stem that tide as much as possible with how we've drafted the general plan.
All right. Another piece with this, one last comment is with some of the changes that have come out, you also don't have flexibility to say, this is what I would like this development to look like. Given this overlay, this residential overlay that does exist, they would have to come in and say, well, this is the kind of thing that I would want here in the residential overlay, and this is the density. They can ask for that. They can ask for whatever, but now it puts it within a development agreement and you can ask for things in return. It gives you greater flexibility that you didn't previously have given the state updates.
Good. Very good. All right, so it sounds like we need a motion. Councilor Arnold?
I'd motion to table, ordinance 970.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Counselor Merrill?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Counselor Stevens?
Yes.
Counselor Hilton?
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hupp, for that presentation, Mr. Eggett. We will re-examine that at a later date. Item number 3, consideration of ordinance 971 approving proposed modifications to Title 3, 4, 5, and 7 of the Riverdale Municipal Ordinance Code concerning firearm possession and use. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. As I mentioned in a pre-planning meeting, this is just in response both to the gentleman who had come into our meeting, brought this to our attention, but also to the recent changes in state laws. About the last 2 years, there's been 2 or 3 fairly big changes and somewhat significant, and our codes are a little bit outdated, so this is just to bring us current with what the state law is right now.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Councilor Arnold.
Move to approve ordinance 971 as stated within the packet.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Counselor Stevens?
Yes.
Counselor Hilton?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Counselor Merrill?
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
That's not big.
Item number 4, consideration to adjourn into a closed session pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-205C to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation. Mr. Brooks?
Do we want to kind of suspend that?
If the council was agreeable to it, I would do that. I'd maybe just postpone or exit out of our city council meeting and come back and go into the RDA quickly, because we can get that done really fast. That's going to be short, and then come back in the other one. Then that way,
Closed session.
Larry doesn't have to meet or wait too long.
So we would adjourn this meeting with the
with the intentions coming back,
re-adjourn
right?
it. Okay.
Right.
And then we would
Go
to
into our RDA,
and
correct.
then we would after that was over, we'd go back to
Right.
this meeting.
Right.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. We would need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we are adjourned. So let's go ahead and go into our Riverdale City RDA Board meeting for Tuesday, September 25th, or September 5th, 2023. Please let the record show that all board members are present, with the exception of Board Member Hanson, who is excused, and Board Member Hilton, who is joining us via telephone. We also have members of the city staff as well as members of the public with us tonight. We will start with a time for public comment. This is an opportunity to address the Riverdale Redevelopment Agency regarding your concerns or ideas. Please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move on to, we have no presentation or reports, so we will move on to item D, consent items. Number 1, consideration to approve meeting minutes from the July 18th, 2023 RDA board meeting. Is there any comments or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, a motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor say yes.
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 All right, those minutes are now approved. We'll move on to action items. Number 1, discussion and possible action regarding the sale of the West Bench property. Mr. Brooks.
I don't know how long ago it was, 8 months ago or so, we came in and discussed with you and requested permission to proceed on the sale and negotiations of the West Bench property. At that time, you gave us authority to move forward, and as long as we were able to get a price that equal to or higher than the appraised value, which I think was at 1.2, Mike? 1.2 was what you'd given us authorization if we could get something above and beyond that to move forward on it. We have done so. We have accomplished what you asked us to do, and I wanted to inform you what we did, what we come up with. You know who the the purchaser is, which that in and of itself is a huge accomplishment for Riverdale, that we were able to land a Tesla because they're so difficult to get and there's not that many in Utah. But having did that, what I thought was appropriate, and I cleared with the mayor here, is the man who started this was Larry Hansen. And I don't know, were any of you here? Alan, I don't think you were even here, were you, Alan? It was even before you. This is one of the first projects I worked on when I came.
I think I was on the planning.
Were you on planning commission? But a lot of you didn't see the behind the scenes stuff. I did, because Larry was giving me the assignments to work with Don and Lale Gibby, and we were negotiating with the power company and different things. How this whole thing laid out, the power company came in and kind of threw us a little bit of a curveball, and they purchased that whole piece up there. And they wanted to put that power station right on 1500. And so Larry, in his wisdom, saw, this is going to screw that whole bench up there, because it's going to be right on the road, nothing around it's going to work. And so he entered into negotiations. This went on for months. I mean, this was a battle. And he convinced the power company to move it where they did. And then we ended up trading properties and moving all that stuff around, and we ended up with the piece that we had. Larry's goal, I think, at that time was at some point in time to sell that. And we've had a couple nibbles over the years and never really got to we may have on the one, gotten maybe up to the 1.2, but at that point I don't even know if it would have appraised for that, to be honest with you. So I asked Larry to come in and tell you guys what this sold for, just because he was the one that started this, and I don't think he would have even dreamed what we came up with. So Mr. Hansen, if you wouldn't mind coming up. He was the one that started it, so he probably should be the one that finishes it, the way I looked at this. So open that up and let him know, Larry. I wanted to see his reaction too, because I don't think he would have expected this either.
Oh, wow.
I have to tell you, first of all, my wife and my daughter Annie told me not to say anything, so I wouldn't be in trouble. But I guess I'm willing to risk a little bit of that. Some of you may remember Golden and Cora Bingham, long-time Riverdale residents, and they owned the prime pieces up there of the 5 plus or minus acres. And since the power company had come in and purchased Golden and Cora's acreage, that did leave us in a bind. And that's been many, many years ago. Dawn, well, they've all passed away now except Lale. She's still, I believe, living over on 1150. But long story short, we looked at that, and Randy Daly and I were quite concerned. We had a good contact with Rocky Mountain Power, their political person, liaison, but it took a little bit of arm twisting and pleading with them to say, don't ruin the West Bench, move that substation. And so what we did is we used RDA housing money and spent about $500,000 to buy Don and Lale Gibby's 2 properties, their personal residence and a rental unit they had. So we did that with the agreement with the power company that once we had closed that deal, then they would trade properties with us, and in exchange they would take 1 acre on the northwest corner. And that's where Steve was working now on that, and Randy, and so we had legal stuff going on, but the financial part of it was really fairly easy because we had money in the RDA housing fund that made that possible, and we bought those homes and relocated Don and Lale Gibby. At that point, they used their proceeds to purchase a home down on 1150. And that's one of the purposes of the housing program. So that put us in a position then, having effectively completed the agreement to relocate the substation over on that northwest corner, that we had the prime acreage, approximately 5 acres left, and we were into it $500,000. And so from there, of course, I retired 9 years ago, but that West Bench was one of my key projects for many years. And I appreciate very much Steve Brooks taking the lead on this over the years. It hasn't been an easy area to work redevelopment, but things are really looking well from what I understand now with what Steve's got going here, which I don't know the details yet, but also what America First is doing. Many of you know I retired from America First and still have connections up there with some board members, but to know that they have the desire to do something good on that West Bench, along with what Steve now has pursued on our parcel, and then that extreme south end between there and Riverdale Road. There's still a lot of good opportunity there, and I appreciate so much what Steve's done on that, and makes me feel like it wasn't all for naught. Anyway, that's pretty much it, Steve.
Open her up, Larry.
Open it?
Yeah.
Is my commission in here too?
I wish mine was in there, to be honest. We should have to pay a commission out of this, but it's pretty crazy.
Well,
so this would be the sale price, and this would be our net.
You're kidding. That's the net?
Yeah.
Wow.
They don't know what it is, so you got to tell them.
I was like, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Well, that $500,000, I wish I'd have done that personally and privately. Anyway, the sale price agreed to, I don't know how you did this, $4,582,512.
This one right there.
Yeah, 4,582,512. The sale price.
Is this going to be the candidate?
The
Yeah,
net.
they gave the wrong envelope.
The net proceeds
Yeah. Okay.
down here. Did you actually get a deposit for this money then?
That's in our bank account right there. We got it last week.
We can do a lot of good housing with this money. The net deposit after the expenses of the sale, including all the commission and paperwork, so forth, legal work, $4,297,666.28. That's easily a couple of million, almost 3 million higher than I would have expected. When we first bought that property, we had a hotel offer us $1 million for a piece of it. And I thought, well, we could double our money real quick. And I guess fortunately for us, they went somewhere else. But that is amazing, Steve. Congratulations to you and your people. That is great news. 4 million, nearly 4.3 million. Congratulations
Thank
to
you.
all of you. Just keep it going forward.
We will. The nice thing about that is that all that the housing money and then the corner piece that we bought, we also bought the corner piece over there by Maverick. We can pay all that back. Now,
That's the old
it's still our
Brad.
money.
That's the old Brad D. Property.
So this is huge. Like just the fact that we're bringing in a Tesla is huge.
It is.
Then when you make money that we can do stuff with, and there'll be some things that we have coming down the pipeline, but this is just a huge deal for Riverdale. Very big. And all because of your foresight.
Oh, I don't know about that. You did good work, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if it's okay, I'll just excuse myself.
Okay.
I'll go home now and have a little ice cream or something.
Yeah, you deserve it. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Yep.
We'll invite you up when we have the Tesla grand opening up there.
Actually, I think a nice lunch or dinner would be appropriate too, considering.
I can probably do that now too, Larry. We'll find something.
That's a relief. I thought I was going to ask for a car. So
I know.
I don't want to piss
Well, that's good. That's great news. So
I guess just in the end, I just wanted to get your blessing on it, make sure you guys are okay with it. We've been holding off because all this stuff was going on. It's just crazy, but we hadn't seen the money. That money is in our account now, that 4 million plus. So we're pretty stoked. We wouldn't have touched that anywhere else.
yeah, yep. Very, very well done.
I think Ted wanted
Oh,
that
my
for a
goodness.
song.
For a song.
Gonna get that free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it made a little bit of difference for us. So it'll be nice. It's all good. Now there's in fact, they want to break dirt next week, right, Sean? Within the next 2 weeks, you'll see stuff going on. It worked out really nice.
Because the road's closed.
They'll still do it. These guys don't mess around. When they get rolling, this thing gets rolling. But the nice thing is some of that discussion that they'd had with Ted previously, it continues on. So they'll actually remove a bunch of dirt from our site, now the Tesla site, over to help America First out. So they're just swapping some of that
So
dirt around.
they're actually being congenial with each other.
Yes, they're getting along really well, in fact, and we've heard rumors of some of the America First things. That whole West Bench will be huge. It's very different. Sean's working a lot with the utilities. We've got to move all those things. We've got water lines and sewer lines. I mean, it's a detailed project, but it's coming, and it's going to be
Let me ask
rolling.
a couple of questions.
Sure. Yep.
I think I'm.
Yeah, you're on. Yep.
Okay, there was 9 million in the RDA fund and 5+ was over on the east side of 1500. That was kind of committed to Ted when he sold it. Did that stay with that property?
Yeah, nothing's changed. Everything's the same. It's just that it'll go through America First. Or if they choose not to move some of those things, that could change it a little bit, but still the same. Nothing's
So how
different.
much was committed to the Tesla folks of that remaining?
Some of that, there's just a small part. Do you remember just off your head, Sean, what we were looking
Still,
at?
most of it's going back to America First because America First is bringing the utilities down to them most of the way.
Mm-hmm. And,
So I don't think
Yeah.
is that also covering the sewage, the new pipe for the 21-inch water? Anyway, it's an 8-inch.
Yeah.
That's the Weber Basin water line. So that's still going to be done in conjunction with a little bit of it in conjunction with Tesla, but most of it in conjunction with America First.
Oh, okay.
And so, and it's actually going to be upsized now to probably a 30-inch line. Phase 1 will go in, which is a part underneath the road there, will go in with the Tesla or as the Tesla is being built. Speaking back to what Alan just said a minute ago, if the construction up there was bad this summer, it's going to be way worse for the next 8 to 9 months.
No one uses it other than their employees. So who cares?
They're still scheduled to try and temporary open back up next week so you can come across. But with the trucking and a water line and a sewer line coming down the road and with the roundabout being built by America First, it's not going to be fun for the next year or so up there. So.
Do you think it'd be open but just restricted, or closed again?
It's going to close again for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. They're going to do some temporary paving where the roundabout's going to try and keep it open as long as possible. But when they start doing the 30-inch line and the corners on the roundabout, that will have future closures for sure.
Yeah, just keep it closed so we don't have to deal with.
Don't say
Just
that out
let them in
loud
a
because
little
they would
bit.
love to have that because it would save them tons of money to be able to have the road closed.
I
But we've
mean,
been telling them open.
seriously, I think you ought to offer it because it's just like, getting a morsel of something and then having it taken away again. And just saying, you know what, dude, just do it right and get it done. Save the money.
I think some of it just might be the pressure. They're getting a lot of complaints, as are we. A lot of people that come from the west part of the county cut through that way. Stacy being one of them here at work, she probably complains about it more than anybody, but because that's her way of coming to work. But I think they're
Definitely.
just trying to work with people.
That would weigh into my decisions a ton. If I had approval from the council to be more open that way, it makes a big difference because a lot of our goal is to keep. I know how much complaints you guys get when we do something like that. I know how many complaints I'm getting about it. I'm sure you guys are getting overwhelmed with it.
No, I get complaints on the trailer court and Leslie's. I don't get anything up there.
The trailer park,
We
they
do.
disconnected the water this week, so that's
Water
good.
was done this week. Okay.
But the thing is, like if we can have an answer and you say, you know, we decided to keep it closed so we get it done right, not, or open it and close it, open it and close it, because that frustrates the world. And if you go in and say, look, we're just gonna do it right, we're saving America First a ton of money in what they're doing, this thing's gonna be amazing when it opens, I'd be all for that. And I use it, or I used to use it all the time, so.
The hard part, a little bit of the hard part with it, it's always a floating target on a project like that. Just like what happened to us on the far end, we should have been done by now, and we have a utility company that just continually puts them off that nobody has any power over. You know what I mean? Like, you're on their time frame. You're waiting for them to put it in, and they're like, you can't get natural gas from anybody else, right? So you wait for them to put it in because you're on their time schedule. So it's kind of always a moving target. So it's not like we could come and say, oh, we could be done by April of next year. We could have an idea, but it's always a, you know, does the pipe show up? That's the pipe special order for up there, that 30-inch. That's not something that's just available at a plumbing store or a pipe supplier. So
The thing is, it's like the thing with Katrubis's and the Shake Shack. You know, it's like we need to approach things with common sense. Understand it's going to be painful, and you know we're going to get complaints or whatever. But if we can say this is why it's painful, it's like going to the dentist. You know, I mean, this is why it's going to be painful. Okay, well let's get through it and have it done right. You know.
America First is really trying to build a nice project up there. I mean, if you go back and look at the plan again, and they even, I don't know if we brought that to them yet, but they even want to make sure they want to maintain the landscaping. I mean, they want to make sure that stays like a well-established
Talk
project.
to their engineer from Salt Lake, and she committed.
Oh, it is.
I think it might be helpful if we just knew maybe how long they were going to open it temporarily. If it's not, you know what I mean? If it's not worth it, or if it would delay the project.
So we're
being
planning
done.
on having it open through the winter, is what the plan is right now.
Okay.
And then looking at more of a spring type closure again.
That's one more road you don't have to plow.
It makes it really hard though, because we can't get to where we need to get to plow. So.
Yeah.
My 1 out of 5 vote is you do what you think is best, not having somebody chirp about it. And you know, if it's a better scenario for us as the city, for America First and all that kind of stuff, let's live with the pain through the winter, and if it's a better scenario.
America First really wants it back opened. They have a ton of problems up there right now the way it is. Logistically, they're probably complaining as loud as any resident is personally.
For their employees.
Yeah.
Well, and deliveries and, you know, just a lot of stuff. It's really affecting them. They've been after the contractor fairly harshly to get it back open. So,
Well, it's not just a road. There's a building going in that's just like they close the road and the building's there.
so okay, that's good to hear. I mean, because that a lot of times it makes it easier and faster if we can do that, but it also, you know, it does really affect our citizens. So,
Okay.
Before we move on, can we schedule RDAs more regularly, just to get updates? Even if there's not an agenda item, just to get updates.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. There's a lot of times we don't have anything to report, but
Can you do
because they
just an
move slowly,
update without doing a meeting?
we could do that too.
Well, can you put it into the council
An
meeting?
RDA
No.
update. No.
Well, no, you just do an update. You just say this is what's going on. I mean, if it's open, you just send us an email.
Yeah, maybe we could do like on smaller stuff, just send it as an email, and then a little bit bigger stuff that public should be aware of. We could do that in an official meeting, go that route. I mean, these things, they move slow sometimes, but I suspect that West Bench is really going to get going this next year, so that we might have them quite regularly on
I
that.
mean, like the Riverdale Citizens page and the Riverdale page, and we can just announce stuff. Because if it's not something we need to vote on or something like that, we can
Yeah.
just, you can update the world so they know it's going to be painful, or, you know, like this 5600.
Right. That's why we jumped on that, just to keep people informed, because, you know, when we hear any of those words, there's certain buzzwords, of certain roads, man, we're all over that thing because we know how much it impacts everybody. So, and we're the ones that are going to get the calls. So if we can head that off, the better.
And one thing, I was just talking to Steve, I was thinking about as we were talking, the general plan, as you look at it, there's quite a few, there's like 3 or 4 images that show the future plan for that West Bench campus and what IFSU's trying to do. So I would advise you to look at that, because that will give you a pretty good idea of what their 15-year plan looks like and how that area develops. And then there's an area to the north on that plan that's kind of a open-ended, who knows, but their goal is to have it be commercial retail uses as much as possible. And it's an open, I think it's like 12 acres. It just is sitting there that they're not quite sure what to do with its destiny. So look at that and analyze that as you think about the things we're talking about with the RDA, because it will be applicable. And you'll see it coming forward with site plan after site plan request as they start moving forward.
And as you do that, just remember, it's not warehouses. It would have been nothing but warehouses up there. So it's going to be, it will look nice if nothing else. You know, I see those warehouses. They're like the apartments going up everywhere. You see them everywhere. You cannot make them look good. I don't care what you say. You cannot make them look good. And that whole thing would have been nothing but warehouses up there. Now this is going to be a lot nicer. It'll look nice if nothing else, because they don't cut corners. So this will be fun.
All right, let's get out of this RDA meeting. We have a motion to adjourn and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All right, very good. So now we're going to re-adjourn our Riverdale City Council meeting. Do we need any sort of motion or anything, or we just adjourn it, or just go? Okay, so we are going.
Gavel.
Oh, I could gavel it, huh? No, I'm saving that. So, okay, so we are going to go back into our Riverdale City Council regular meeting. We'll pick up the agenda at item number 4, consideration to adjourn into a closed session pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-205C to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation. Mr. Brooks.
No, don't we need to,
So moved.
Oh, yeah.
Have to make a motion.
Yeah, I guess he's already told us that that's what we're going to talk about. So,
and Casey, you're looking awfully lonely. Remind Chief Shawley that, you know, sometimes his presence is also, and we like you to sit right.
Is that my spot? Where do you guys want?
Usually sat over here.
Right there, because you got to shoot who comes.
yeah,
through that
wherever
door.
you can. Yeah, wherever you're the best. Yeah, if you're right-hander.
Wherever they see you first and not us. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But you don't need to stick around for the executive.
All right, so we would need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Ms. Maragona, will you please poll the council?
Yes.
Hold on. I have Hanson twice on here, so.
Yes.
Counselor Mara,
Yes.
Counselor Arnold,
Yes.
Counselor Stevens.
Yes.
Counselor Hilton.
Yes.
All right, we are in closed session.
I don't really have a problem with them staying because it involves them to some degree.
Okay, let's turn our microphones off.
You just walked into the thing.